Welcome in to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard De La Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
I have returned.
Connor has returned. The prodigal son. It is Tuesday.
Return of the King.
August 9th, 2022. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, and then Patreon.com/Gaming Discourse. You guys are laughing, and I don't know why.
I was laughing at what he said, and you just kept going.
Passed by it.
If I mess up the intro, it all goes downhill. So I have to stay on target. I have to stay on target. Working on a new review for Ruins Magus right now, and that should be out maybe even Thursday or Friday, probably. It's a review, so it's not super long. But I talked about it last week. Have you played any more Ruins Magus?
No, I haven't had a chance to, unfortunately.
No? Okay, that's fine.
What the fuck is Ruins Magus?
It's a VR game. It's a VR game. You play as a mage. You go. It's not a roguelike, but you go into dungeons and you fight and you complete missions. And there's a nice little story. And it's very anime. It is anime. I guess it is. I don't know.
It's Japanese.
Yeah,
Japanese
but
inspired.
Yeah, like I don't know if
Japanese developer.
Yeah.
If a game has anime tropes and anime characters and anime art style, does it count as an anime, or is anime strictly television shows and movies? You know.
Well, the phrase anime is now being used completely different, and now anime is just anything that's animated. So.
Oh, okay, cool. But anyway, so I'll have a review up of that next couple days. We do have tons of news. Call of Duty has performed poorly. Tencent is looking to raise its stake in Ubisoft. And we have something that made me super angry about Twitch and crypto gambling, which is just the three worst words. Like, just string a couple words together, and there's not more that are more annoying than Twitch crypto gambling. Like, that's like the worst band name imagine. That's a band name that simps for corporations, like the opposite of a punk band.
Could you imagine, like, Tyler just toiling away at his Ruins Magus review, and then Connor just walks in? I got 3 words for you, buddy. Twitch crypto gambling.
I lost it. All right.
Totally, all of it.
Anyway, okay, so Connor, why don't you tell us what you've been playing lately?
Playing Life.
Yeah.
The worst game.
So before I left eons ago,
Yes.
I picked up and started playing.
But you can talk about that. I don't know if you want to talk about your vacation at all. Okay, it's fine.
I've talked about it enough with people.
Sure. Yeah.
Where was I going? Oh, Vigil, the longest night. I started playing that.
Man, I have that on my. That's on my.
It is very fun. Once you start like getting into it, and I don't know if have you played it at all?
No, it's on my backlog.
Oh, okay. The bosses are really. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say it. They're intelligently designed to where you're not, beating your head against a wall for an hour before you figure out their mechanics. They're easy to pick up, but they're not a cakewalk. It's a nice balance between the two. I'm only doing, 1 or 2 runs against a boss, but it's always like down to the line when I beat them on the 2nd or 3rd run.
So Sigil, what kind of game is this?
Vigil is a
Vigil.
Okay. Yeah, Vigil, The Longest Night is a Metroidvania style game.
Okay.
You play as a vigilant, who is like a monster hunter / demon hunter / otherworldly entity hunter.
Okay.
Yeah, they jam a lot of into it, but
sounds like it.
The description of the game does call it Lovecraftian, like it's Lovecraftian style horror, which is conveyed pretty well with some of the monster types. But yeah, being Metroidvania, a lot of backtracking, but it's not unnecessarily backtracky. A lot of that loops back around to areas you've been. And so it's a lot of cycles, not just go here, run backwards, go here, run backwards. It's a loop.
Okay.
Another thing I've been playing, I recently started playing Disco Elysium.
Hey.
Yeah. Um,
The game rules.
I have mixed feelings about it.
Okay.
One of the highlights was in my first playthrough, in under an hour, the character had a mental breakdown and the game ended.
Wow. Okay. So that, I didn't even know that could happen.
Yes.
Neither did I.
Oh yeah.
But that can happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
On my second playthrough now, avoided that conversation that led to the mental snap. But again, mixed feelings. There are some things that I think they could have done differently. There is a character two characters who very liberally use the F slur.
So they're bigots.
Yes.
Or this character is a bigot. Okay.
And one of them also uses an in-game racial slur.
Like an in-universe.
In-universe for a specific
Yeah.
group
Okay.
of people from a specific country.
Got it.
And it's assigned to, I guess, what did you say, teenager?
What do you mean?
You guys played it?
I played it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. You can do names and stuff.
Well, yeah, I'll just Kuno.
Yeah, I hate that kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's supposed to be like a punk
He's
teenager.
a miscreant. Yeah. Like,
who may or may not be using drugs, who is a bigot, who is throwing rocks at a corpse that's hanging in a tree, and it's like you can make an unlikable character and not make them a bigot. And I get the theming of the character, but specifically with using that word, they use it a lot. And once or twice, just to like give off the idea of, oh, this character's homophobic and racist and all these other things. Sure, but it's almost every other line, and it's too much in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that's I haven't played the game, but I don't think that's a crazy criticism.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen the movie 42 about Jackie Robinson?
oh, Jackie Robinson, yeah.
Yes.
I think Chadwick Boseman plays
Yeah,
Jackie
you're right.
Robinson in that one. Yeah, it's a good movie, but there's a scene where, and famously, Jackie Robinson faced ridiculous amounts of racism. We're talking about 1940s U.S., so come on.
Yeah.
But there's a scene that sort of really leans into how he was berated, and I've often wondered how accurate the scene was, because it liberally uses the N-word to the point that it seems like silly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the movie was supposed to be the movie wanted to sort of show the experience for what it was and didn't want to back away from. But anyway, I remember that same feeling about when I first saw that movie, because it kind of made you uncomfortable, because it's like, okay, at this point it just seems silly how often you're using the word and stuff like that. Like, you don't see a point other than being, what's the word, like obscene and and sort of ridiculous. But yeah, I don't think that's a ridiculous criticism. And I do that's a discussion I would love to have with the writers, to ask, hey, why did you think it was important to use this word this many times this way? Yes, you're creating a bigot, but
they do censor the word in both the text.
Oh, they do. Okay.
In the text and the audio. But there's only so many words that are spelled that way that it's easy to pick up on.
Do they censor the in-game slur?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say that'd be interesting if they censored their own slur that they made up. But anyway.
Yeah, no, because it's the game is trying to it's like a alternate history, like 1950s ish, 60s maybe, 60s, 70s.
Okay.
Like,
The year is 51, but
they're not specific about it. Yeah, it's like an alternate history. Like, it's not AD, it's not BC, it's like another thing. Like, it's another thing. And it's kind of like a pseudo, like, East and West Germany, I think.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay.
Because you're in the town you're in is, it doesn't have a government, but it is governed by other countries.
Interesting.
So it's a huge mishmash of people who don't like each other all in one spot.
Yeah.
And nothing is working. Everybody is in terrible condition. It's bad news all around.
I really need to play this game eventually.
You do.
I really need to play it eventually.
It is good. I am enjoying it. There are some very interesting characters. The accents are everywhere. So you have a person that has like a really thick French accent. Then 5 steps over, there's a guy with a heavy Spanish accent, and then a block away, there's these two teenagers that have like Cockney accents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that character you speak of, like I did my best
To talk to them as little as possible.
to be done with that character. He was so. I mean, I also just didn't like him as a character. He's incredibly annoying. He was, imagine a kid just not raised by any family or anyone of any sort of like guidance and just let loose in this world, and nobody tells him otherwise. So.
And constantly speaks in the third person.
Oh yeah, that would be annoying. That's the worst thing.
Yeah, that
There's
is
the
like
worst. That and then bigot.
But I'm enjoying it so far. The different facets of your mind that talk to you is really interesting.
I love it.
Yeah, having the encyclopedia as your like starting inner voice, I guess, helps a lot because it's really just exposition.
Yeah. Wonderfully told exposition. in my opinion.
Wonderfully told exposition, and with how the game is set in a alternate reality, I guess, it's really helpful to have your own internal monologue that is explaining things to the character and you, because your character has slight amnesia from heavy drinking the night before.
Possible
Okay.
schizophrenia.
It's possible schizophrenia. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Man, every time somebody talks about this game, I'm like, it just sounds way more complicated now. There's just more layers suddenly.
It is surprisingly layered for like just the premise of it, that going into it, didn't expect that much that many layers, all like the different the introspection in it.
Okay.
It's wild. But also I reinstalled and started playing Skyrim again.
Wow. Okay, so we can just move on.
Hold on, real quick. I was going to add this in tidbits, but someone just modded it today to add the Nemesis system.
Yeah. I saw
Really?
that.
into Skyrim.
Really?
Yeah, the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor into
Yeah.
Skyrim, and I think that's freaking cool.
I'm gonna have to go download that tonight.
Yeah. I also read in that story that the reason that we haven't seen the Nemesis system is because I don't even know how you do. I don't know, how does Warner Brothers, how do you patent an idea? So stupid. I'm not going to get
Well, it's
started.
programming. They patented the program.
I don't care. I don't care. How do you, if you could patent that, you could patent so many different things. Could I patent a football programming game? You know what? Whatever. Connor, continue, please.
I think it's
Fuck WB. Connor, continue.
it's the specific like programming language that's used for
No. I don't want to talk about this. I'm right. Okay?
specific
Talk
programming
about
language
Skyrim.
used for the Nemesis system they have. Maybe it's not. Is it patented, or do they have like a?
I don't know. I don't remember the legal. Whatever they have,
No one
they
can use
shouldn't
it.
have.
Yeah, right.
Whatever they have, they shouldn't have.
Maybe you shouldn't look into what EA has then.
Oh, no. I understand the thing about like the loading screens, like interactive loading screens, and a similar. Yeah, trust me. Yeah.
I'm going through this time more, and this is something I just haven't done in the game. More of a magic user, which I'm surprised I haven't done yet. But I'm going for. So it's not just Skyrim. So I started like, I'm gonna boot up Oblivion because I was playing it a month ago, and Oblivion, lovable jank. And I'm like, all right, I want something a little bit more, not polished because it's Bethesda, but more modern.
Sure. Okay.
So I
What about modern jank?
modern jank, that fresh jank, that new jank smell.
10-year-old jank. It's a 10-year-old jank.
I don't think we should say that. That sounds bad. Anyway, God damn it.
I just see that car meme. Guy slapping the top of the Skyrim box.
You can fit so much jank.
This baby can fit so much jank in it. Anyway, sorry.
But I'm doing. I'm trying to think of the right term for it. A battle mage. So heavy armor.
Sure. Okay.
I'm focusing more into conjuration than anything else. And I'm just going around doing odd jobs and killed a dragon. So I'm like, great, now I can go get all the dragon souls. Which, sidebar about Skyrim, it's an interesting setup with the game, because if you ignore that first mission to go fight that dragon, dragons just don't spawn.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you don't do the first mission for the Jarl and, go fight that dragon at the Watchtower, dragons never spawn.
Huh.
So you could go to
Because you don't get told about them.
You just see the one. You just see Alvin.
Oh, okay, all right.
And then they fuck off entirely. So you can do everything else, be max level, and then go start fighting dragons.
Holy crap, there's dragons everywhere.
Yeah, in the game about dragons.
Sure. Okay. Interesting. I didn't know that. Fun tidbit.
Yep.
Richard.
I've been playing some more Dragon Quest XI. And I've already known this, but it became more apparent while I'm playing Dragon Quest XI, is that Dragon Quest XI has a ton of similarities to Dungeons and Dragons. And I explained last week how it's very traditional. And so like your like hit numbers are not very high, they're very low. And so it's enemies don't have, 100,000 hit points. They have probably somewhere around like 1,500 hit points, and you only do X amount of damage. And I feel like that's something that is very close in relation to Dungeons and Dragons. And another thing that I thought was pretty neat, at least this is my experience with Dungeons and Dragons, if you ask your DM like, hey, how's the enemy looking? Your DM can give you some sort of like, he's doing all right, or he's damaged, badly hurt, whatever. I realized as I was playing, so I didn't notice it before, when you select fight and you select I want to attack that guy, his name is normally white, but eventually if you do enough damage, it'll turn yellow, or it'll turn dark orange, and that's like your little like tells of like, oh wow, he's almost dead, so you can just kind of focus on that. And I kind of enjoyed seeing that similarity there, because it doesn't seem like it, but Japan actually takes a lot of inspiration from like Dungeons and Dragons and the old like board games like that.
Yeah.
So it's very cool to see it kind of translated into their own JRPGs. If I didn't have cheats, I would have stopped playing this game already.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I really do love it, and I enjoy it, but I think I'm almost 30 hours in.
Oh, so you're in the first act still?
No, I'm not, because I'm using cheats.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm using cheats. So I'm barely at 30 hours I'm in the third act, I think. But so many major things have happened. It's one of those like, all right, we're going to go to the bad guy now. Oh, no, I got to do something else. Oh, I have to do something else. And so when I go online, because I'm kind of trying to figure out where I am as far as the game goes, people are like, oh, I spent 200 hours easily on this. I'm not even done. And it's just and knowing what I had to do to get to certain parts, if I just played it normally, man, there's so much game in Dragon Quest XI, and that's not a bad thing for those who love it. And there are tons of people who love it. And I would like it too. I just unfortunately don't have the time. So even now with cheats at 30 hours, once again, with how many major events have happened in the game, I'm like, God, yeah, if I played this normally, I would have dropped it. Not that I didn't like it, just I don't have time for it and moved on. So I think I'll be done with it this week. And I'm very stoked for it, because now I'm kind of excited that I'm going to beat another game. Regardless of how I beat it, I'm going to beat another game. And that gives me like that more energy to be like, all right, next one. Because I still got to beat Stray. I still got to beat Kina. And those are short games too. So it's not going to take long. But there's a lot of other longer games to get to. And of course, Ruins Magus and all these other, too many games.
Yes.
But that's it.
Mine was streaming Dragon Quest XI 3 times a week, 4 to 8 hours a night. Did it for a month, didn't beat the game.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously long.
It's a long game.
And I think he had just broken into the third act when he was like, I'm done.
And you know what's great too is they keep giving you stuff to keep you going. And I talked about how much I love the monster design like last week. They keep introducing new monsters, kind of the trickle feed style. So it's like when you enter new areas at different points in time, newer enemies, unique, different enemies are all there. And they're so fun to look at and fight against. So it's very, very cool.
I just have one question for you with the game. How much do you love Sylvando?
I don't. I hate Sylvander.
Really?
Yeah, I hate Sylvander.
I love Sylvander.
I mean, I understand why people love him. It's he's too much for me.
Oh, okay.
That he's a very flamboyant,
Extremely
character.
flamboyant.
Yeah, and I don't mind it, but Japan loves doing that, like loves having that one character who's like that, but they like cranked it up to 11.
Like a trope almost.
Yeah, it's
like
very, very,
very
very
tropey.
tropey. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Ready?
I love Veronica though.
All right. So what?
Spoilers for the Dragon Quest fans.
So
It's been 4 years.
So I started Baldur's Gate. I picked up Baldur's Gate on the
Cool.
Switch. Started Baldur's Gate, and I am happy to announce that Baldur's Gate is literally Pillars of Eternity, or really Pillars of Eternity
There
is
you go.
literally
Yeah,
Baldur's
yeah,
Gate. But I am surprised by how much Pillars of Eternity. I knew it was similar. I did not know it was literally
How much
the
they
same
copy-pasted.
game. Yes, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with because it's obviously it's a totally different story. It's based on Dungeons and It is Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It's in this. It's set in the Sword Coast. So
The city of Baldur's Gate.
yeah, in the city of Baldur's Gate, second edition rules. It's a lot of fun so far. It's old, the enhanced
Yeah.
edition, but it runs great on the Switch. One thing that is amazing is when you have your party set up, and this really matters in these RPGs where you have positioning, because if you get attacked and you have a mage on the front line and the mage has no armor, that mage is going to get schwacked like in 12 seconds. Yeah. So you want your fighters up front. You want your
Squishies in the back.
exactly, yeah. And that's how you want to go through dungeons. And so you can move your entire party and they stay in formation. So you can kind of drive it around like it's a tank, kind of, which I love. That makes it so much easier to go through dungeons and whatnot. You couldn't do that in Pillars of Eternity. You couldn't control it with an analog stick. It was all click-based movement, which I really didn't like because of that fact. But so far it's old, but it still works. I've had to look up some guides because there are some weird rules and things like that, and I'm like figuring out how everything works. But no, yeah, it was one of those things where, and I'm sure you guys have felt this in games, but like you go through the character creator, you watch the introduction sequence, and then you get that first moment where you're finally in control of your character, and you're just like, shit. It's like, where do I go? What do I do? There's like, because it's a huge, Baldur's Gate's a huge game. And so I knew that there was going to be that initial like overwhelming, like, okay, I got to get past these like these initial first quests. And now I've got like a party, and I know each of the parties, like I've customized their weapons, and I know their abilities and stuff like that, strengths and weaknesses. And I love that. I love that about these types of isometric RPG and really RPGs in general.
Yeah.
So and I like RPGs that play at this pace too, because. And this is maybe a reason that like games like Destiny, they just turn me off. Because it doesn't feel like you earn anything. You kill a dude, 12 weapons appear. And like Borderlands did it and it's fun. Everybody else does it and it's not as fun.
Yeah.
Division, it's like super tactical, but here's a purple M4, just whatever. It's dumb.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. Borderlands is entertaining because the guns are actually different. Whereas,
and it's all silly and ridiculous.
Whereas the guns in like Destiny and Division, just the stats are different. So.
Yeah, it's just not the same feeling. But
we love that, my gun turns into a rocket when it's out of ammo.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. But in Baldur's Gate, it's a much slower pace. So, if you finding a new weapon for one of your companions is exciting because you're not going to run into it all the time, or finding a ring that has kind of a buff that you can put on somebody, and all of that really matters. Finding new armor, stuff like that. It's exciting because you're slowly not just building your character up, you're slowly building your party composition up. And already I've had to make some decisions because some NPCs come in pairs. So if you recruit one, they're like, well, I'm working together with this guy, so you have to take us together, So and it's a party limit of 6. So if you take one, you have to take them both. But then if you find like one person and you kick out one of the pair, then you lose 2. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I've had to like jostle that around a little bit. But yeah, I'm having a ton of fun with it so far, and I'm looking forward. The copy that I have has Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2 and all the expansions.
Yeah.
So there's like 300 hours of D&D in there, which is great. And I'm not sure if I'll ever get through and beat it all. I beat Pillars of Eternity twice, once on the PC and once on the Switch. Or at least I got really far on the Switch. I don't remember if I beat it, but I loved it. It was fantastic. I want to go back and play Divinity eventually, but I want the Steam Deck because there's too much reading. It's too slow paced to sit at a desktop. Yeah, but cross save. Oh, you know what? You can do cross save. And the other worry is how it runs on the Switch. I don't know how it runs. And then I'm waiting. Baldur's Gate 3. I'm also waiting on the Steam Deck too, as well as I will see how far I can get. And do you guys know off the top of your heads if Baldur's Gate 3 is based on D&D 5th edition or
no clue because it's the
Dark Alliance?
No, Baldur's Gate 3. Like the
Baldur's
actual
Gate
server.
3.
It's
Yeah.
well because it's still in early access. I mean, I haven't really looked into it because of that.
I don't know either because obviously the first Baldur's Gate is based on Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition, and if you play it now, it's still based on 2nd edition. But I don't know if Baldur's Gate 3 is or if they have their own game system. That wouldn't make sense because it's specifically a Dungeons and Dragons video game. I'd imagine it's based on 5th. That would make sense. But yeah, I haven't touched touched Baldur's Gate 3 because I wanted to wait. It's in early access. I wanted to wait till it was.
Yeah, I don't. Early access is fine for a lot of like Vampire Survivor is still in the early access, but that's not necessarily a game that's going to end. Whereas like Baldur's Gate 3 or Hades, they'll have endings, and I don't feel right playing a game that's continuously being made.
Yeah, and it's been in
It is 5th edition.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but that's been in early access for like 2 years or a year and a half
It's
now.
come out till 2023.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah. So, okay. Another game that I hop back into, and I'll talk about just for a little bit. Boneworks. So Boneworks is a VR physics simulator that does all kinds of silly things with physics. It's very Half-Life inspired. It's very silly. But the entire premise of the game is that it's just a gigantic physics playground. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's one of the best VR games I think ever made. It's the sequel is coming out this supposedly at the end of this year. We'll see. And I forget the name of it. But anyway, as I play Boneworks, it makes me think like, okay, so in VR, Boneworks is a really straightforward game. Mm-hmm. Linear. You have multi-path levels with secrets and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's linear. The shooting's not complicated. The first person, when you fight enemies with guns, it's not that complicated. When you fight the zombie enemies, it's not that complicated. But they do such a good job tossing you into little
instances,
little like fun physics challenges,
okay.
And in 15 years, a game like Boneworks may feel super antiquated and quaint. But right now, it still feels really cool and experimental and different just because of how many things, just because of, you don't see a lot of games like it in a lot of really heavily experimental games in VR and really in general. But they do such a nice job putting you in tons of little tiny like fun scenarios that are all based on physics. There's one that you come across a giant like sewer runoff, and you're on a cliff. The cliff hits, and there's a giant sewer runoff in front of you. And to your right, there's a ledge. And if you follow that ledge and get to a doorway, you can exit the level. But at the bottom of the sewer runoff is some collectibles down there, right? So to get there, you have to jump down, and then you have to go collect the collectibles. You have to run back to the cliff's base, and then there's like a little climbing section where there's pipes and ladders, and the ladder is broken, so you have to like find a different way to climb. And it's just a fun little optional thing you can do. There's multiple. They go out of their way to sort of tell you that there's going to be multiple ways to solve puzzles because of how open-ended the physics are. And they even say, like, don't be afraid to cheat in quotations puzzles. Like if you find a crazy way to solve a puzzle, do it, because that's the whole point of an experimental game. But yeah, when I'm playing through it now, I will. When I first played through it, I was just having fun going through. But now I'm like taking my time, really trying to find like all the different hidden things and the secrets and stuff like that. And when I played through it, I think it was late early access, and now it's full release. So there's more collectibles scattered about and whatnot. But I'm having a lot of fun with it, and they nailed a really cool atmosphere. The setting of the game is a VR city that your character puts on a headset and transports into this city. So it's called Myth OS City. So it's already a virtual world. And something's gone wrong. So like there are zombies, digital zombies, and stuff like that. And it's all very creepy because like these zombies, they grow melons and they care about melons a lot. So you see like melon written on the wall. So like they like worship melons. It's very weird.
Like Gary in Fallout.
Yeah.
Gary.
But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I think I'm going to play through it and beat it one more time before the sequel comes out this year. I'm really excited for the sequel because if it's more of the same and they up the ante with physics, I think it can be a lot of fun. Okay, we'll do the news.
We want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this episode. They have been silently supporting us since the very beginning, and we felt it was time to give them some love. The like and share buttons have been at our side since episode 1 of the podcast. They can be found just beneath this episode. Please give them a click, it helps us greatly. If you're feeling lucky, click the bell icon to enter for a notification anytime we post new content. You may be surprised by what you get.
Tencent is looking to raise its stake in Ubisoft. This was first reported by Reuters, citing 4 sources with direct knowledge of the information. Tencent bought a 5% stake in Ubisoft back in 2018. Reading straight from the story, quote, "The planned stake purchase, Tencent's latest major foreign deal since a regulatory crackdown in late 2020, will help it offset some of the pressures in the domestic gaming market. China's video games market, the world's largest, has become fiercely competitive. Tencent has submitted to the Guillermo, that's what we do in the shadows, to the Guillermo family a term sheet with a price way above the company's current price to ward off potential competition," end quote. Tencent has been talking with the Guillermo family since at least May. So this has been going on for a bit. You know what? And I just thought of this because we had a story. Oh, shoot. I should have looked this up. It did not happen that long ago that we had a story about Eve saying like, hey, you know, we may sell. Who knows if there's it wasn't that long ago. I think it was definitely after May. So this has been going on in the works for a bit.
A lot going on here. It's worrisome.
Sure.
It's worrisome. And I don't know where to start.
All right.
I guess you can go.
That's fine. So I think it feels gutless on one end, because we just talked about a couple weeks ago a better Ubisoft talking about how they wanted to, figure out they want to get a seat at the table, and they had these 4 demands, and the 4 demands weren't being met and all that stuff, and how that hadn't made any progress in 100 days. And meanwhile, you have discussions going on from the ownership family about selling. And it feels gutless because it feels like what happened is they had a company, they had a fallout because workplace culture was toxic. And then instead of trying to fix that, they decided to cut their losses, sell the company, and go retire or something, right? That's what this feels like.
Sure.
And I'm fine. And I think that's gutless. I think that's cowardice. And you're handing, I don't know what Tencent's record is on, HR off the top of my head, but I do know what the Chinese government's record is on HR, and it's not great. And we also know that when it comes to companies like NetEase and Tencent, the relationship between them and the Chinese government is much closer than the relationship between video games and the French government or video games and the US government, right? You're basically dealing with the Chinese government at that point. And we talked about that last week with Roblox. And that's worrisome too, because you have a company that is trying to initiate huge a change in workplace culture, and you're selling them off to somebody that I don't think really cares about that, and not that Eves cares initially. And the other thing that frustrates me is I don't. It feels like Ubisoft has just dropped the ball, and I don't know why. It just doesn't make sense, because you have IPs that are diverse and successful, and they just can't. I don't know. They just can't figure out a way to make them work, and that frustrates me. And I guess a similar thing could be said about Square Enix and their Western studios, which we talked about a lot. But where is Splinter Cell? What's going on with Splinter Cell? We've had reasons that we don't have anybody to work on Splinter Cell at the moment. Blah blah blah. But like tomorrow, they're making a Splinter Cell remake. I understand that. But tomorrow, if a new Splinter Cell game is announced with Michael Ironside returning or something, I don't know, whatever, it's huge news. It's the biggest news of the month, right? But Ubisoft hasn't been able to do that. Assassin's Creed has been successful, and the way that they sort of changed up the model, where they haven't been making one every year, I think has made the franchise better. I haven't played them, but I think the general consensus is the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood to Syndicate era is not better than the Origins to Valhalla era, right? I think that's the consensus. Maybe I'm wrong. And then you have things like Ghost Recon, where, it's like completely drop the ball, stupid NFT experiment, completely misreading the room, and it lands on its face. And there's no reason that has to happen. There's no reason that you can't make a tactical shooter that's going to find a market, So I don't know. That's what frustrates me about that, is it seems like you have a company with assets that can be successful, that same company has problems, but instead of figuring out a way to fix those things, it's just going to be, we'll cut our losses, we'll settle with Chinese conglomerate, the Chinese conglomerate will cut everything up like a butcher, create microtransaction hellscapes, and we'll go retire. And that annoys me. And that sucks for employees, because I don't think Tencent's going to step in and try and figure out what a better Ubisoft wants to do, Anyway, so.
I think they might, because Asia, more than we do, care about optics. And I think that's why they're probably trying to raise their stake with Ubisoft. But we don't know. We don't know until it happens, or if it happens. But I think that Ubisoft is in a unique position to where they have so many good IPs that you're talking about. They have made enough money residually that a lower company like Koch Media or Embracer can't buy them, or a big company like Sony
that's a good point.
Doesn't want to buy them, doesn't want to spend the money to buy them. So they're kind of in this middle ground, yeah. But Tencent is someone who obviously has the money, because they have been putting their eggs in a ton of other baskets, and probably have enough money to swoop them up. And of course, I'm sure that the Guillermo family, especially, what's his name? I can't even remember his name right now. Eves doesn't want to deal with this anymore.
Well, I don't think he wanted to deal with it from day one.
Oh yeah, probably
because he didn't do anything.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I think that is doom and gloom. We are, or about microtransactions and the way the Chinese gaming landscape is. I can see Tencent picking up Ubisoft and not having anything with Ubisoft, not having any of Ubisoft stuff come to China unless it was China exclusive. Does that make sense?
Sure.
We'll make an Assassin's Creed, but only Chinese exclusive for the phones, because they know that the audience for those IPs bigger around the world. But that is also something that is kind of we have no idea unless it happens, or if it happens, it's kind of a wait and see, because it's all just theoreticals at the moment. But this is a tough position for a lot of people involved, because I'm sure that Sony is somewhat interested in maybe picking up the IPs. Actually, that's a good point, because Ubisoft has been going all in on Sony's new PlayStation subscription, because most of their games came to the service this month. And I don't know what else to add to that, because it's once again, it's just a matter of speaking in theoreticals. So
I do. So one, according to this Reuters story, Ubisoft is valued at 5.3 billion, which firstly, do that and then side-eye Square Enix because like, all right, dude, like again, we're beating a dead horse here, but man,
300,000?
that horse looks fine to me right now because this is 5.3 billion, you know, against 300 million. But anyway, so I think that's, and I don't remember what Destiny went for. Was it 3 billion or is that too much?
No, I think it was high. It was fairly high.
3 billion is way too much, right? Yeah, it's way too high just for Destiny, right? Was it 1?
Bungie.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, okay,
No, it was 3.6 billion.
It was 3.6 billion. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So all of Ubisoft was what, a little more than less than what is another is almost double that. Little less, but almost double that. Sorry, I just wanted to put the numbers out there because I think that's interesting. But I do wonder if Ubisoft has been playing the slow game because they saw the Activision Blizzard buyout, and then they saw the Bungie buyout, and they're like, hey, you know, this market is just going to raise and raise and raise and raise. It's kind of like in sports when you have a free agent who holds out because they know that, you know, this guy's going to make this much money, and then all of a sudden you have to pay me more than him, and then this guy's going to make this much money, and you have to pay me more than he got paid, you know, so it becomes like a big gigantic market.
He always finds a way to sneak in sports.
Hey, but it's true, right? You're sitting around, you're making your value
This
go up.
wouldn't have happened if Minnesota if Minnesota let Tom Clancy buy the Vikings.
Richard.
Hey, what's up? Oh, right. I got
Speaking of Tom Clancy,
Tom Clancy
has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
It doesn't, but it does have to do with shooting. Call of Duty has performed poorly. Am I wrong? It's Call of Duty.
Yeah, no, but
In their Q2 financial report for this year, player spending in Call of Duty is down to 1.6 billion this year from 1.9 billion a year ago. Activision's monthly active users has also dropped from 127 million at this time last year to 94 million right now. That's a drop of 33 million players. Not too long ago, Activision said one of its risk factors, besides unionization, was that it relied on too few games. That is very true.
yeah, it is true, and it's, you know, and here's that monster rearing its ugly head. Do you remember when Call of Duty was like an event?
Yeah, I do.
And that wasn't that long ago.
I worked those.
Yeah, you worked those events.
I worked those events. They were so fun.
But it's weird to think about because Call of Duty is just meaningless now. Like if you look at a screenshot of Warzone, it's just generic modern. Like there's just no distinction. It's just everybody has skull bandanas. Like they're, you know, I remember Pepperidge Farm remembers when Ghost had a skull bandana and it was cool.
Back in my day.
Because he was the only character who had a skull bandana and he was cool, you know? And then Shepard killed him and you're like, what the hell? Right? And now it's like every other freaking character's got some edgelord Joker tattoo on his face or something. And so none of it looks cool. It's all ridiculous. It's all stupid. But like at one point Call of Duty was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
You know? It was a completely different take on a shooter. And that feels so weird to think about where we are now. But yeah, the larger point here is this is something that Activision Blizzard knows is a problem. And how did we get here? It's a problem of their own making. Because instead of diversifying, instead of figuring out how to innovate, it was how do we milk the shit out of this? How do we become like Fortnite? And if you're playing a game about monetization tales, and in some sense may even be a what's the phrase, zero sum game where there's no winner or whatever, winner take all,
yeah.
whatever. which this kind of is because, it's all or nothing with these, because if you either have the biggest market or you're losing players. And so, abandon ship. This is one of the problems.
I think we kind of just real quickly need to add into perspective that it says it's doing poorly, but it's still making over $1 billion.
Yes, this is true.
That is ridiculous.
This is true. Yeah, it's still. Well, I mean, relatively speaking, it's still exceedingly successful.
Yeah, it's 16% less than last year, but it's still $1.6 billion from one game.
Yeah, and you have to factor in the pandemic. So you don't know. Well, wait, last year was 2021.
Yeah,
sorry,
it was post-pandemic.
From December 2019 until now, it's all been one really long year. So I apologize.
No, you're good.
But yeah. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
I haven't heard the announcement that the pandemic has ended. So
well, this is true. Okay, we get it, Richard. You read the news.
I do. I miss it too, apparently. But I find it fun and funny that, man, it's every month or every week, these three companies, Activision, EA, and Ubisoft, just keep like screwing up intermittently. And like EA has kind of been on the like quiet side for a while. They've made a couple like hits recently, the Star Wars Jedi, but it's like Activision right now is I think currently at EA's worst. So well, as far as they only have Call of Duty, and anything good that they have had, they have dissolved to feed into Call of Duty.
And did they cancel the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3? Was that?
Yes, they canceled the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 remake that was going to happen, the 3 and 4 remake that was going to happen. Vicarious Visions got folded into Blizzard. Yeah. The guys, all of their good studios, High Moon Studios, Beanox, Raven Software, like, who made really great games, the Spider-Man games from Beanox, the Transformer games from High Noon Studios, and Raven Software did Singularity, X-Men Legends 2, and like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. They all make Call of Duty now. They don't do anything else but make Call of Duty. They had Bizarre Creations, who did Blur, who was like did really good racing games. Call of Duty games now. Yeah. And so it's astounding that it's just Activision is a Call of Duty machine. But that machine is going to break. And we're kind of already seeing that, with the advent of Fortnite and other free-to-play games of that nature. Like the pie is now being spread, given to other people.
And that's the question: is at what point does that pie get too thin? Because you're going to keep making money, they're going to keep making billions of dollars. It's not like tomorrow nobody's going to log into Call of Duty. It's going to be super popular. But at what point is the slice of that pie going to get small enough that Activision begins to make changes? And that's what I think is interesting. Right?
Well, it has to be soon, in my opinion.
You think it has to be soon?
Has to be soon.
Okay. Yeah. See, I don't. It would.
They said that same thing about Western movies in the 50s and 60s.
Really?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, you can't just make something up like that.
No.
They said that nobody wants to watch cowboy movies, and nobody wants first-person.
when Marvel movies started getting big, like they kept comparing it to like the Western, because how many Western films were made in the 50s and 60s, because it was just a huge, and then they just stopped making because there's just nobody went to go watch them anymore. Yeah. So
we also learned the true history of the American West. Yeah. Which was deflating. But anyway, okay, are we good to move on here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Activision needs a swift kick in the ass.
I was going to say that I think that EA's silence is still a resounding bad note, because they have IPs like Star Wars, which they should absolutely be doing shit with.
Yeah, they are now. They're kind of
and that's
more than they were.
And that's the thing.
Ago.
They released Battlefront, and then they released Fallen Order and Squadrons, and they've had so much time to do so much with it, and they're doing practically nothing.
Well, hey, remember the words of Mark Dara, right? And listen, if Call of Duty, if Activision is a Call of Duty company, the words of Mark Dara, EA knows how to make soccer video games.
Yeah.
and not much else.
Absolutely.
And by soccer video games, we mean soccer loot boxes and not much else at this point.
Speaking of gambling, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, jeez. Okay, So this is a really good story. Twitch streamers are getting their fans to gamble on crypto, which is just a vomit-inducing sentence. And of course, their fans go on to lose in gambling. A Bloomberg story by Cecilia D'Anastasio begins with Enrique Chabot, who is a 26-year-old Canadian, which being from Canada will matter here in a second, who didn't start gambling until his favorite gamers started to online. Chabot regularly watched Felix Legnal is what I'm going to say, a former pro Overwatch player who started playing blackjack in 2021. At one point, Legnal posted a promotional code for a site called skate.com, which itself calls itself a leading online crypto casino. Chabot developed a gambling addiction, lost his life savings, took out a few loans, and eventually had to declare bankruptcy. Currently, slots, as in slot machines, is 7th in the popularity category on Twitch. Streamers get paid to take part. One streamer is paid more than $1 million a month as part of a skate.com sponsorship to gamble. Crypto gambling is illegal in the US, but not in Canada, which is why that was relevant earlier. And of course, you can get past legalities with a VPN, you know? So there's always ways around that stuff. Twitch told Bloomberg that the company is currently in the midst of a deep dive look into gambling behavior. Twitch no longer allows sharing links or referral codes for gambling companies. Skate says they use a number of measures to stop people from using VPNs and that they take their regulatory obligations very seriously. Skate.com.
Speaking of VPNs, this
episode,
podcast is brought to you by NordVPN. So had to. We're gonna get there, buddies.
Legnal, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name.
That's fine.
Who has 11 million followers, is still gambling on Twitch. Recently, Drake, the alleged rapper, also entered into a partnership with Skate and gambled on Twitch. Now, this last part is a little bit serious. Legnal, who has described himself as addicted, as well as other streamers, shifted their gambling habit to hours of the day when they weren't streaming. He told Bloomberg, quote, "I go out of the way to tell you not to do it. I do it because I can afford it, and I enjoy it, and I think it's content," end quote. So, a lot to unpack here. Some of it serious, some of it ridiculous, like Drake, alleged rapper who gambles on Twitch. I don't listen to rap, not because I don't like it as music. I think it's a fine form of art, but at the same time, is Drake really when I think rapper, I think Kendrick Lamar.
He's a
like,
pop
I think
star.
He's Drake is like...
He's a pop star.
Yeah, Drake's like a pop star. No? Drake's like Candy.
Well, see, I think the reason why we shouldn't include Drake in the rap genre is because Degrassi, with his song "Started from the Bottom, Now We're Here," he was very much not at the bottom, being on a very, very popular TV show.
Sure.
My personal opinions on Drake, but
so this entire story, it just makes me it's infuriating to me, and I think they should just ban them.
It would be easy.
You know, and I know they probably can't. I know that there's probably legal ramifications. I know that, this sounds like the old man who, 10 years ago was like, just make all the kids throw their cell phones away before going to school. I get it. You can't just do that. But it's just because if you have an audience, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You have a responsibility to that audience to at least not be a source of harm. It doesn't mean you have to mentor them or be a role model to them, but at least don't be a source of harm, right? Or something wrong. And that's what this is, and that infuriates me. And so, in my world, it would just be bans. It would be, in this shit right now, cut away your relationship with crypto economies and move away from it, because there's nothing good in this. And that last sentence, and I want to approach this with compassion, because if there is an addiction problem, first, that this person needs help. And, you know, how do we get help there? I don't know. Obviously, I can't do it. But second, this idea that I enjoy it and I think it's content. Like, is that as far as your... Is that as far as the ramifications and your responsibility go? That as far as you could take it, and it's content? That word is doing a lot of work there. That is one hell of a euphemism, you know? So it really bothers me. It's a really good story. I hated this story. And I think, I don't know. I'm repeating myself now. For up to me, we just ban them and say, see you later. Go stream on YouTube or something. YouTube's really the worst place on earth. Trust me. But anyway.
It sucks. It's very worrisome because we have an ability for, think of the children, for those who are younger to just, you know, simply watch this, you know. I think you had to be 13 or older to be on Twitch, but as soon as they started letting people just kind of stream whatever they want, like not because it was just strictly video games for a long time. And then it was like, okay, well, there's just chatting or, you know, arts and crafts and stuff like that. And then that opened the floodgates for just anything to start happening. So watching people gamble, and we've had so many controversies regarding gambling already with the Counter-Strike stuff that happened a couple of years ago. Yeah. Like, this is something that they should have learned from it, and they haven't. And I do think it's really wild that, it's going to be so easy. I mean, it already is very easy because the internet for a younger audience to find this type of stuff and take their mom's card or their dad's card or something and just start, you know, gambling addiction early. I had another point that I was going to make, but I lost it. So that sucks. I was going to go into something else regarding it, but nah.
I think this is a point that gets brought up a lot. It sucks how many... Listen, in the 1980s and 90s, there were a lot of TV shows that were essentially commercials, right? But at least they were commercials for something physical. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make it better. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. I do remember now. The guy, Lengyul, or whatever. His last line, I go out of the way to tell you not to do it. I do it because I can afford it. I don't doubt that he can afford it because of his former, you know, pro gaming and Overwatch. Yeah. But now you can afford it because you're preying off the viewership of other people.
Yes.
That will give you money in order to do this. Yeah. So you're not losing out like these folks are.
Yeah. It's not a victimless crime.
Right. So I think that the whole line is bullshit.
And it's not necessarily a crime, legally speaking.
And it's not like, oh yeah, I shift my gambling habit to hours a day when I'm art streaming. That's still not better. Like, go do something, like, fix your problem, man. Like, and that problem is just seeping onto other people.
Yeah. And I want to be compassionate and all that stuff, but at the same time, you got to hold these people's feet to the fire because you have 11 million followers, many of which, these are not 35-year-old men with six-figure jobs and, you know, great decision-making skills that are watching Twitch, right? You got 13, 14-year-old kids, super, what's the word I'm looking for? Impressionable, right? All that shit. And I don't know, there's very little in the way of taking responsibility for stupid shit that happens on Twitch and YouTube, and it bothers the hell out of me. And this is something that is so just ridiculously obvious. Like, this is not a good idea in any universe. And so, if it were up to me, it would just be bans. It'd be, no, you just can't do this. We're done. That's the ban hammer, and it's over. If you want to gamble on Twitch, find a different place to gamble. Play a goddamn video game. That's what you're gonna do on Twitch.
Gamble in Moxie's casino in Borderlands.
There you go.
Do that.
Get those feet pics.
Oh, jeez. Are we ready for tidbits?
Yes, sir.
Let's do tidbits. A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the Tidbits.
Did you miss that while I was gone?
We
did it.
Oh,
But you whispering it? Yeah, I missed that.
okay, that's what I was talking about.
Okay. Dragon Ball Fighters will finally receive rollback netcode. At EVO 2022, Bandai Namco announced that it will provide an update to Dragon Ball Fighters implementing rollback netcode. This comes after 4 years of support for the game and a long time coming for the fans. Most fighting games up until the last year or so have relied on particular types of netcode, mostly to negative response. Netcodes usually cause extreme delays on inputs and produce insane amounts of lag, which is very crucial for fighting games because they require perfect frame responses when fighting against an opponent. So it's a major boon for online fighting games. Rollback netcode essentially eliminates most of these issues and is the preferred way of playing online so far. However, a lot of games, even as much as recently, released ones have failed to implement rollback netcode, even with fan outcry. This, of course, will ensure that the game can thrive much more longer with more support, hopefully. There's even, like I said, King of Fighters 15, which came out like a couple months ago, does not have rollback netcode. And fans are furious because the game is quickly dying because there's no... People don't meet up at arcades anymore. They play online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if your online is not good, then your game is going to get dropped quickly.
Do you know what the downside to? Is it more expensive to do that? What's the?
I think you have to develop it differently because I know that there's a very popular game. Well, it would be even more popular called Grand Blue Fantasy Versus that came out about 2 years ago, and that does not have rollback netcode, and it's an excellent fighting game. And the online fan community is dead because the online is just so terrible. And I think they asked why, and they basically said to go back and like kind of re-implement it and develop it. It just takes a long time and is very like difficult.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which begs the question: if this is a known issue, why not develop it to begin with?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Why
I'm
not?
sure there are reasons.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, there have been older games. King of Fighters 97 received a rollback netcode update like last year, but that's a 2D fighting game from the 90s, so the development on that probably was easier than like a full-on 3D game. Yeah,
Stuck an intern on it, cracked it out on the weekend.
Yeah. They just changed the apostrophe to a colon, and there, boom, rollback netcode. I don't know.
Typing in input netcode colon rollback.
We're done, baby. Hey, an impossible Halo 2 challenge has been achieved. You probably read about this.
I did.
But a month or two ago, popular streamer and YouTuber Critical issued a challenge for $5,000 to beat Halo 2 on the highest difficulty setting with every bonus challenge modifier turned on without dying. By July, nobody had accomplished that, so the challenge of the prize for the challenge was bumped up to $20,000. As of last week, streamer known as Jervelin was able to complete this feat. Already a moderately popular streamer, he is known to complete particular Halo challenges, so he hopped on Twitch for upwards of about 9 hours and completed this challenge. It should be noted by turning on all the skulls required for this challenge, pretty much almost a guaranteed one-hit kill from enemies who are way stronger and reload faster, and it's just...
Jackal snipers, I don't know what you...
Yeah, I tried Legendary once, and like you step out and just... it's your cat from Halo Reach, you're just...
Yeah, you're just donezo. Yeah.
So sorry, if anybody's a Halo fan and got that reference. I'm sure
Spoilers. No, just kidding.
It's been 10 years.
Did you it has been 10 years. Did you read how he completed the final level? Because I've always thought this is interesting.
No, I read that he did. There were portions where he had like a banshee or
so
He beat the last level by walking backwards and saying "work, work, work," and they just thought he was one of them.
War. No, so the final boss fight against the whatever his name is,
Prophet, or is it?
No. It's a brute.
Oh, that's right.
With a big gravity hammer. You can. So getting into the building, there's a bunch of debris. But if you grab a banshee and you get its wings off, but it's still operational, you can fit it into the building, and you can fly past like the few enemies that attack you, and you can fly it out to the cutscene, and it'll be there, and you can hop in, and you can use it during the final boss fight. And he doesn't have any ranged attacks.
Yeah, of course.
So you can just fly around and just shoot him and nothing happens. So that's one of the ways to beat the game on Legendary, is to do that, because then you have a Banshee and there's nothing that he can do to stop you. But I've actually done it myself a couple times a long time ago. But no, doing it without dying, though, I'm not saying it's not a big deal. A bajillion people know about it. Anyway, all right, go ahead.
I just wish that similar vein. I just wish that the taking the Kukua into the final Ganon.
Oh, for Zelda?
Yeah, I wish that worked and it didn't despawn.
Yeah, it sucks. It would have ruled to see that video. The final one, and this just happened yesterday. It was awesome. Secret 2-player mode has been discovered in Super Punch-Out for Super Nintendo. This was discovered by Unlisted Cheats on Twitter. By pressing a series of buttons on the main menu and then the screen afterwards, players can unlock a 2-player mode on Super Punch-Out. One player will play as Little Mac, and the other player can choose any of the opponents. Like, it actually goes to like a versus screen, and you could choose any of the opponents. Yeah, it's assumed that this option was left behind as a debugging purpose during development. It was just forgot about. A lot of cheats, including debug menus, started out that way. So pretty cool, because it's like 25 years later, and they barely discovered this. So, yeah, and it's not something that you could. I don't think this is something you can. Oh crap! What's that thing called?
Emulation.
No, not emulation. Because they discovered it works on the Nintendo Switch Online version of the game.
Interesting.
It works on.
So it definitely works on emulated versions.
Yeah.
Because that's what Nintendo's
using.
No,
what's when people go into the code and they look for stuff that's coming out.
Hacking?
Yeah, it's hacking, but it's people do it to when a demo comes out for a game, people go in the code and they can find out what the whole entire game is.
Data
mining, yes.
Okay.
Oh my God, I don't know why. It's not something you just data mine, apparently. So that's why it wasn't discovered. So yeah, that was very, very cool and very shocking. Even there was a couple of Hideki Kamiya, the creator of Devil May Cry, developer Bayonetta and stuff. He even responded to it, and he was just like, "You can't be serious!" No one knew about it. It was awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. That's why we love Tidbits.
Yeah,
to
and
finish with stories like that.
All these secrets that are not told because all these developers forgot about it because they got drunk or something, and
or had to go work on another game.
Yeah, we'll never forget about it again. Speaking of which, so sorry, because you said work on another game. Sure. That reminded me of this. In Goof Troop on the Super Nintendo, in the coding, there are lines of code for Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 1 because they were working because forgot his name, not Hideki Kamiya, it was the other one. Shinji Mikami was working on Goof Troop and Resident Evil, and they didn't have email or anything, so that's how they would send it back.
No
into the
way.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
That's cool.
That's really
so
interesting.
Cool. But no one knows. Not even me.
Whoa. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.